Hello, welcome to today's Q&A. Super excited for those who are here live so we can be able to chat and learn from each other. Also, thank you to all of you who submitted questions. And for those of you who are watching after the fact, I hope that this will be really helpful for you and want you to be able to just enjoy the process of getting organized because it feels so good once everything is in place. So welcome to everyone who made it. And what we're going to do is go ahead, and I've got the questions that Danielle organized that everyone submitted from beginner to intermediate. We don't really have a lot of advanced questions, but that's totally okay. And then at the end of the call, I would love to unmute a couple of people who may have some questions or specific things you want to talk about, and it'd be fun to be able to hear from each other. So if you are interested in sharing something live, type in the chat, we tell Danielle, and she can queue it up if you guys are interested in that. Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm going to read the question. I'm going to answer the best that I can, and then those who are here on the chat, I would love for you to either add in your thoughts or share maybe some additional questions that I may have missed or help me clarify. So if I'm not covering it perfectly, that you can help me, okay? And yeah, and let me know how the video is going. I can change it just to audio, but I'm hoping that video will work. I shut everything else down. Can others on the call see me? Can you guys just let me know in the chat and make sure that I'm not frozen for everybody? Because that would be sad. So, okay, so you guys are good. Okay, so if it does freeze, you can hopefully just exit, come back in. That will hopefully help it. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with the first question, which has to do with just how to start, all right? We've been getting a lot of questions saying things like, I'm totally overwhelmed. I've listened to the first 4 modules. I'm not catching on where to start, or the best way to start in little small jobs. Maybe I'm working part-time or full-time. I just don't know how to begin. How do you start? What's a method that's worked for someone? Taking pictures, things like that. Okay, so this is where I really need your help and support as far as what those of you who have started and have been successful, what you've done specifically. Because the way that we've created the program is so it's step by step, that really you could start with step 1, like in module 1, and ideally be able to just go through exactly. Now, I have seen some people who have said, I really did like reading through the whole thing and kind of going through it just to get a feel for what was coming, or at least read through the next module so that you know what's going to be prepared for you. But really, I would suggest you start with step 1. Now, Danielle has helped me. We're in the middle of preparing a checklist. Some logins have the ability to monitor where you are. Ours doesn't right now. So before we switch it all up, we're going to be using a checklist. So we'll have a checklist you can print out, and you can just start at step 1, step 2, step 3. But basically, you just want to do something that's going to help you build momentum. So the way the program's set up is that you can just get your desk clear, for starters, right? Get that kind of just ready so you have a place to work. We put that emails to 0 up front. That should be something you can do within a couple of hours to get your emails under control. And then honestly, as you're just moving through each step one at a time, you should be able to feel like you're accomplishing something and moving forward. Now, granted, you're still going to have things coming in at you while you're building it, but that should be semi-helpful. So any other clarifying questions, or you guys share any ideas here in the chat if there's something that I've missed or something you want to add. Also, Danielle has some great, she's been responding to some people's emails asking similar questions. So Danielle, if you can think of anything else that you've said in those emails, go ahead and type those in, because I really just want people to know the program's built so that you do know where to start. So you don't have to just sit in the middle of an office and wonder what to do. You have step-by-step videos, instructions, transcripts. And if you haven't done any of that and you're like afraid to open the program, just come in the Facebook group and look at all the photos people are posting and the encouragement, because that's what's really fun about this, is that we have this group that's really there to strengthen each other, okay? Now, another question we had, okay, John said she's looking for the checklist. Awesome, we're actually it's in the works, so we'll talk about that as soon as possible. All right, next one is about restarting. So maybe you have started and maybe you've done some of the things to get your system set up, but you want to restart. There's a question that said, how do you get motivated to jump back in after not working on organization for a few days or longer? And another question says, after I registered, I traveled outside the country, and then I got back and I felt like I'd lost momentum. So how do I get started again? So I think catching up from backlog is a little bit of a different animal. I found that, yeah, when I go on vacation or when I have, all the kids get home from school or out for the summer or once they get back in school, there's going to be lots of times in your life where you're going to feel like, oh, I have so much. How do I catch up? So I think the main mindset shift that works for me, the perspective that works for me, is to think the cost of just digging in and getting your system done is just really so minimal compared to what it gives you back. If you decide, I'm just not going to do a system, I'm just going to keep going. I don't know about you guys, but I honestly can't handle it. If I'm just running around in circles and doing random things and I don't really know what I'm trying to accomplish, it's like the worst feeling in the world. It makes me discouraged. It causes me to not be able to breathe very well. I mean, it's really stressful on me. And so I would just say, if you haven't done it yet, or if you have been behind, come in and fill up your inbox, right? Like, do a mind sweep, fill up your inbox, figure out everything you need to process, get stuff out of your head. I mean, I'm always getting out Post-it notes like, oh yeah, I need systems for this. I need this to be fixed. And I just empty my brain, get all of it out, put it in your inbox, and then go through that flow chart and get it all into your system. Because at the end of the day, if you have a calendar that's very specific of things that you know you can accomplish within the time frame, and if you have a very specific next actions list, so you know here's what's waiting in line and here's the context, just those two things, if they're current and up to date, you're good. So even if you have everything else in piles, but you have a great calendar and a great next actions list, you can be totally successful there. In fact, we've had a lot of people who have done the program I do for moms who said, that's really all I ever do. I don't build the incubation or the tickler, all that stuff. I just focus on having a great calendar and having a great next actions list. So there's just an initial idea as far as jumping back in. Oh, Danielle, thanks for what you just posted here. She said, I think that people think they need to do this all at once or all over the weekend. And it's good to remember, starting isn't supposed to take all the energy, that it's okay to take some time to get through. And thank you so much for saying that, because this isn't something we're rushing. When you're creating the system, you want to do it deliberately and well. But honestly, once you create it well, you might tweak it a little bit. Like, I've gone from paper more to digital, and I have some things that are still paper. And I've adjusted the way I do things as more work projects have come. And, I don't have as many home projects now because my kids are helping clean the house and they're not home during the day. So I have a lot more time to work on the computer. So as my life has shifted, I've shifted the way I do my lists, but really, I've never had to build a system again. So I would say, if you spent your whole life not being super organized and now you're ready to be super organized, it's not going to happen overnight. It's a step-by-step process. Now, David Allen, that's my puppy, David Allen, when he talks to different groups, okay, seriously, come on. When he talks to different groups, he said that it takes 2 years to become specialized in GTD. Now, I think that's a long time. I wouldn't say 2 years. I honestly think you can get your system up and running. Janae Messick is one of our STEP coaches, and she's been working with a woman who has 3 children, is working 30 hours a week, and got her whole system up and running in 10 days. And I thought that was great. I mean, she was highly motivated. She was working with a coach, but she said she got through the first module. She went through and just had maybe a few questions in the middle, but she did really well, and it wasn't that hard. And so that's just what I would recommend, is that you don't get overwhelmed, that you have to do it in 10 days, but recognize that if you're even just taking steps to do little by little, get better at your list, get better even looking at a calendar if you haven't, learning just to work by context, I mean, those are big wins. And one of the things I've realized is that I don't often congratulate myself very much for the good things that I do. And I kind of tell myself, like, you should be doing better. How come you're not, doing everything? And I think when we can step back and really think about our wins, that's helpful as well. Okay. And next question is about how to maintain your system when you feel all alone. All right. And so the question is this: how do I stay on track and not fall back into old ways? And how do you maintain a system when no one else seems to follow it? Okay, so 2 great questions. Please enter in the chat if you have anything to add on this. So how do you stay on track and not fall back into old ways? You may fall back into old ways when you first start, but I think what you need to do is pay close attention to how you feel when that happens. Because if your old ways are working for you, you wouldn't have seen a need to build a system and get more organized. So when you start slipping back, what you're going to notice is you're not going to be sleeping as well. Your brain is going to be going in circles. You're not going to feel present. You won't feel excited about your work. You'll feel drained by your work. I mean, pay attention to how you're feeling, because that, for me, that's motivation enough. Like, I know if I don't do my weekly review, I'm going to have a really frustrating week because I'm going to forget things, and I'm going to be retracing my steps, and I'm going to be doing things twice or 3 times, and I'm going to miss deadlines, and I'm going to be paying for late fees. Or I know that's going to happen if I don't do my weekly review. So it's really, really easy for me to say, okay, I'm going to make this a priority, even if I have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do it, or if I have to block out the calendar or get a babysitter or whatever it was, that weekly review is super, super important. Okay. And then how do you do this when nobody else is? That's kind of the beauty of it, is that, yeah, the whole world isn't organized, and it's kind of frustrating to live in the world without, sorry, my puppy is seriously chewing on my shoes. I didn't expect this. Morning, Sunny. She's having some fun down there. I think she likes my shoe. Maybe I should take it off. Okay. But one of the things that I noticed is that even though other people aren't doing it, that's even the more reason why you need to. Because if you aren't doing your system, you're going to be in the same spot that everyone else is. And most people in the world, I'm sorry to say, are running around in circles, and they're not getting very much done. And I'm not trying to say that like I'm boasting or saying like, oh, aren't we so organized and aren't we fabulous? You know, because it's not like that. You want everyone to be organized. You want the whole world to be put together. But the fact of the matter is that most people are not. And so as I've been working with different companies, I have been shocked to see how many people work ineffectively, and they're missing appointments. Like, they'll miss our meetings, they'll miss phone calls, they'll forget to send things to me, they'll send me the wrong files, it's like ridiculous. They're not prepared for things. And I'm thinking, okay, these people are earning a lot of money and they're being given really big responsibilities, but they're not organized at all. So yes, even though other people aren't doing it, just think about what influence you're going to have on them. And think about, when you get your own stuff together, how great you're going to feel, how great they're going to feel, and how it's going to be, you know, fantastic all together. Okay, and so let's see. I'm looking at the text here. Samantha was saying, seems to be a problem for me having a grasp with context. Having a nice checklist to look at every day, putting it all together, it's been a struggle to me. Okay, getting the whole system there. Okay, so we'll talk more about that. And Samantha, I want to bring you on a little bit because I want to be able to talk with you. Okay, so next question is about Evernote. Someone said, I've used Evernote in the past and saved tons of articles and links, yet I didn't have a system and it became overwhelming. Should I just wipe it all out that I've saved and start over? Not even sure how to do that. Okay, I would not say to wipe out your Evernote. I think the fact that you took the energy to build it and to save things, they probably mean something to you. Now, if you want to, you could go through and delete ones that you don't care about if you want to spend some time doing that, but I wouldn't even do that. I would actually organize your Evernote and get your Evernote to 0, the same way we get our emails to 0. So there's a way you can take, when you're in, usually on my desktop is when I do it. I don't think I've done this on my phone, but there's a way you can be in the notes view. You can actually highlight all of the notes and you can move them all into a notebook called To Sort, or like just filing cabinet or something like that. That would get them out of your mainframe, but would still keep them there for you. And you could give them, I think you can give them all tags. You can, you know, group multiple sets of notes and then tag them as, you know, To Sort or something like that. Okay. So that's one idea, but I wouldn't delete everything. And then I would start creating folders that are going to make more sense to you, or using tags. And we'll talk more about that in the future, but I like notebooks. Some people love tags. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. Okay, and then another question about Evernote says, what do I do with all of my paper files of like old electric bills and water bills and mortgage statements? Do I need them? Okay, so I would love for you guys to let me know how long you need yours or keep yours. Eric keeps all of our, you know, the mortgage and those types of bills. I keep hospital type ones and phone. We kind of divide up which areas we're over. I actually get rid of most of them. Once they've been paid, and once it's all set, then I usually don't see a need to keep them. Sometimes we do like to keep them just for 1 year so we can compare, you know, how much water we used or how much electricity we used or something like that. Now, Freedom Filer, I know I talked about this a little bit. Love Freedom Filer. They have a system where you're kind of rotating files. And so, for example, you'll have like January odd year, all the way to December for odd year, and then January through December for even years. So you have a folder for each month, and then you're just rotating. So you could put all of your receipts and statements into this month's folder, And then if you most likely won't need it, but if you do need it, then it will be there in a month. And then when you get around to 2 years, you just purge and start again. So even to odd. So that's one idea. You could do that with any folder and just make it yourself if you wanted. Or you could take pictures and put it in Evernote. So that's an idea too. If you just wanted to have at least a record of it. But I think most of those papers, they're totally off your brain. If the bill's been paid, you don't need to do anything else with it. I'd get it off your brain, either into long-term storage that's going to be recycled or into an Evernote with a special notebook or tags that's not getting in the way, but it's easily searchable. Okay. All right, let's see. Next question is on processing. So how do you process like incoming mail and bills, etc.? There's a few different ways that you can do this. What we do is Eric gets the mail. So I always like forget the mail. I don't even think about it, but he's our mail guy. He gets so excited. So he takes the mail king across the street. And when we first get it in, we trash most of it because it's mostly junk mail, it seems. And then he gives me the ones that I'm in charge of. So anything involving like health insurance or weddings, any social engagements or anything for the school I get. And then he gets everything involving, the bills, our credit cards, our mortgage, anything that's involving his area of stewardship. So initially what I do is when I look at my mail, I decide, okay, is this something I need to process right now? Or is it something that can go in my inbox and wait for my weekly review? And typically it is something that can just go into my inbox. And right now my inbox is pretty much cleaned out because I just did a review. But if there's, I know it's just a standard doctor bill or something like that, then I just stick it in there, and then that works pretty well. But the main idea is that you don't want to just leave it on your counter. You want to get everything in recycle that you possibly can. Anything that needs to be handled before your next weekly review, you handle it. So you'd open it, put something on the calendar, put something in your inbox, that type of thing. Or if it could just wait till your weekly review, you just stick it in your inbox and you can process it all at once. I did talk to Todd Herman, who does the 90-day year. I took his course, and he just processes his snail mail once a week. So he lives in New York, and as they get their mail, he just puts it in a basket, and they only look at it once a week, which actually can work pretty well because most of the things that come through snail mail don't need to be handled right away. So that was an idea too. All right. Okay, and let's see, just comments coming in. Kristen saying, we haven't gotten down a system for logging doctor's appointments as we go yet, so we currently scan in all the bills and explanations of benefits and name them with a date and type of appointment to keep some form of medical history. I think that's a brilliant idea. And then Danielle was asking the same question I was going to ask. Do you keep them in Evernote? And let's see, Zach says, sometimes during the appointment, we may type an Evernote note with topics discussed, medications. Okay, that's a brilliant idea. So I think that's an excellent way to be able to keep track, and you can actually even tag it per person or have a notebook per person or just have one notebook and put their name in the note. So I think that's a brilliant idea. Good job, guys. Okay, next question says, what do you do with things that you need to keep, but you don't know where to keep them or how to remember where you put them? I think that's a great question. Okay, things that you need to keep, but you don't know where. That's why we have the flow chart, okay? That's exactly why, because the things that you need to keep, there's a reason why. Either it's storage, right? Like there's no action, so it's going to go in a filing cabinet, or it might go into incubation or something like that. Or there is an action required because you want to do something about it. So then you have to decide, am I doing something about it now? Or am I doing something about it later? Like I'm going to put it into someday. And if I'm doing something about it now, is it like a 2-minute task, right? Or is it going to one of my cubbies or current project support materials? So you want to make sure that you are actually making decisions on the things that you need to keep. And so many times nowadays, yeah, you can just scan it, put it in Evernote, and so you don't have to keep the actual paper. And I think that's brilliant. That's a great way to do it. So I would just learn to use the flowchart, and there's an audio to walk you through. There's some videos, and come ask any questions in the Facebook group if you have more questions, because that flowchart, that's like the key to this program, because it's going to help you to see that there's nothing left that you're just kind of keeping just to keep. And that's what used to overwhelm me. Is honestly, I had piles this big, like 4 of them on my kitchen counter, and then I had one on my desk, and then I had them, and they were all over the place, and it was just these random piles. But that stresses you out. We're not going to do that anymore. So use the flow chart. Ask us if you have any questions. We're happy to help you. Okay, next question is, what's a good way to organize projects, including future projects, and their associated tasks? So someone says, I'm a paper person, I'm not Evernote. Where can I keep a list of tasks? I think this is a separate question. Where's a good place to keep a list of tasks that are not associated with the project so I don't lose sight of them? Okay, great. So first question is, how do I organize projects and tasks? So in Module 8, we actually have that project planning template. That's where if you're really planning out a whole huge project, you have space to brainstorm and put together, here's all the parts of the project. Now, your current project support materials, like I use the cubbies or Eric has file folders, that's where you'd want to do it. So if you're working on a specific project, like, okay, we're reorganizing or we're remodeling the kitchen. As you're remodeling the kitchen, you're going to have a whole bunch of different tasks and ideas and things like that. You can brainstorm them all, right? Maybe your next action is to brainstorm what you want the kitchen to look like. So that's has all these, ideas, and then brainstorm all the tasks involved with getting the kitchen remodeled. That could all be on one sheet of paper if you're doing paper. I would just keep it, I have a home category in my cubby. I would just keep it in there. Or you could go ahead and put it into an Evernote if you were more digital. So that's what I'm doing right now, is if I'm working on a specific project, like Eric and I are speaking at a conference next Friday, and it's an in-person conference. We need to have a PowerPoint. There's a few different people there we really want to meet. We need to get a babysitter, right? Like there's a lot of things that need to happen. So I had to have an Evernote note where I brainstorm all the parts of the project and I use my little checkbox, stuff like that when I get it done. And then that way it's all together in one spot. Another thing, you can use whatever tools you want. If you're using something like Kanban flow, the reason I like Kanban is because you can have those projects that you're moving around. And when you click on it, it has a space for subtasks. So sometimes I'm doing that if it's strictly computer work and I know I'm doing it all while I'm sitting at the computer at my desk and it's work related. I can just use Kanban, put all the steps in there, and I can be checking them off from that point. So I think the main thing you want to know is that you want to know where you're going to find it. So I would pick one spot, whether it's a cubby or whether it's Evernote or whether it's Kanban. And you might have work and personal, or you might have like, here's my paper and digital, and they support each other. However it works in your mind, so it's not on your mind. But when you have a space like that, then I think that should help as well. All right, and some people are saying have a whiteboard. I think that's a wonderful job. So Eric and I have a whiteboard over here, and we actually have two here. And whiteboards are wonderful if you're brainstorming a project. The only thing that I would say that we sometimes struggle with is we'll decorate the whiteboard with all of our ideas, and then that will sit there for like a month, and we're actually working on other projects and we never even look at it. So I would just make sure that you have an active whiteboard. Don't just write on your whiteboard and leave it there for, months, because that's frustrating. And then I think that's super helpful. Now, if you have extra tasks that are not associated with a project, that's really important to think about what types of tasks those are, okay? So if it's a next action, your next actions, it should be a very simple list. That's just like I have mine in my planner, or using Kanban or one of our apps, like To Do or Cozy or something like that. So if it's a next action, you want that list really short. If you have a whole bunch of random things on a list that are not necessary to be done this week, they're just things you don't want to forget, then that's where the system comes into play, because it's important to know what types of things those are. Is it a Sunday? Then it goes on your Sunday list, and you can subcategorize that as much as you want. Sunday books to read, Sunday vacations to take, Sunday clients to reach out to, Sunday projects to do in the home, right? You can have a whole bunch of that. Or is it like, these are lists of projects that I need to do sometime in the next month? That would go on my next in line current projects list, right? So that I would know exactly where to find it as I'm doing my weekly review. Because when you have just lists of tasks, because I used to do that, I would have, 30 to 40 different lists. Your brain's not going to work like that. So you need to know where you're going to put it in the system, depending on how soon you need it. And then that will help you feel a lot more calm. Okay, and then another question is a mind sweep done routinely? If so, how often should I sit down and empty my mind onto paper? When should I engage the lists I create? Okay, so great question. A mind sweep should be done at least once a week with your weekly review. So when you're about to process your inbox, you want to get everything else out of your brain, because at the end of the weekly review, you want to feel light as a feather. You want to feel super happy. I just spent 2 hours this morning organizing and putting together some projects, because honestly, about 25 different projects like landed on my shoulders all of a sudden. It was a little bit crazy. And so mainly Eric gets a ton of ideas and he was sharing them with me, and I think of them all as projects I have to do right now. So I had to simplify. I had to kind of pull some things out and clarify which ones are now, which ones are later, and put them all in order. Taking the time to do that, I feel like I was carrying 50 pounds this morning. I feel like it's all gone. I feel energetic. Now I'm just knocking things out. I'm making the phone calls and figuring things out. Danielle, you're probably going to get a ton of emails today because I'm like feeling super excited. But I just want to let you know that a mind sweep at least once a week is critical to your weekly review. I love what Danielle just said. I keep paper by my bed because things come up right before I go to sleep. I gather them up for the weekly review. Wonderful. Now I keep my phone by my bed. I just turn to the do not disturb mode so I don't get any notifications or anything like that. But 2 nights ago, I woke up at 2:30 in the morning and I couldn't really go to sleep because I remembered I was supposed to do 3 or 4 things. So I just opened up my email and emailed myself because I knew in the morning I would check it. And then what was kind of fun is Eric checks all my email too, because we kind of share email accounts, especially for work. So that morning he got up before me. He saw my email to myself of all the things I needed to do, and he helped me accomplish 4 or 5 of them. And it was awesome. So things went from being in my mind to getting done the next day just by emailing myself. And Jeanette says an LED pen light so you can write at night and go back to bed. Great idea. Love it. Okay, and then let's see. Lisa saying, I love whiteboards too. Someday, like a mini bucket list by topic. Oh, for Sunday list. Okay. But I have the list everywhere, so I made a Sunday only mini binder. I love that idea. And I think, Lisa, what you've done is just brilliant, because whenever you start feeling overwhelmed, like, oh, I have so many things, then you know you're going to put that into kind of a separate category. Like I found it, I have a filing cabinet right here, and I had everything I was filing there. But I found for my business stuff, I had tons of files, and I only had one file folder because I didn't really plan for it to be a big business. I was just starting like a little website. And all of a sudden I had like 25 folders worth stuffed into one folder. So I realized I needed a separate filing cabinet. So I have one down here now, and that's been a lot more helpful. Okay, and then Zach has a suggestion here. You may want to add the mind sweep as part of your printout for the weekly review. It's kind of in the first step, maybe use the words mind sweep. I love that. Okay, so Danielle, can you make a note of that? Because we can actually get that edited and repost it. So that's a great idea. Thank you so much, Zach, for saying that. Okay, so you guys are so cute. I love this. All right, next question is, I am stuck at the email project. What do I need to do to want to do this and not procrastinate? It seems daunting to me. Okay, those of you who have gotten your emails to 0, what did you do so you didn't procrastinate? I would love to hear from you. For me, again, it's that pain pleasure thing. I know if I don't get to my email, I'm going to be mean in a few days. I just know, because that's what happens. And I don't mean to be unkind, but I start feeling stressed and I know, oh, I forgot this and this and this. And I'm so much of a people pleaser, and I'm trying to get better and more realistic. But if I haven't even responded to someone, I carry that with me. So part of it is just that you need to experience what it's like to get your emails to 0. Part of it is that you just need to step in and try bit by bit, right? I mean, you might not get the whole thing done at once, but what I would say is if you could set the timer for 1 hour and just spend 1 hour setting up your folders and doing as much as you can, you're going to feel the momentum, okay? Like make it an appointment with yourself. Danielle saying, I love, love, love deleting things I don't need. The motivation was high because it really stressed me out when I have unfinished things. Seriously, just do it. You'll be so much happier and work so much smarter. Yay, I love that. Okay, Lisa and P say, emails to 0, organize by from and delete in batches using shift control keys, and then keep up daily. Love that. I mean, really, keeping up with that and being able to just bulk delete, bulk move gives you more power than you think. And as you learn how to create your filters and be able to unsubscribe and use unroll.me and stuff like that, I mean, it's just amazing. Because I mean, still, I have probably 75 to 100 filters in place. I use Unroll Me a lot. I still have like 30 emails, you know, every couple hours. And so, but I'm learning how to process them quickly. And I'm every day thinking, how can I be smarter? Do I need this email? Can I fix this? Right? Because we don't want to be overwhelmed by email. And you want your email inbox to be a joy. You want to open your email box and think, oh, look at these friends, look at these opportunities, look at this great work that's moving forward. I listened to a podcast one time and this guy said, oh, every time I open my email, I feel sick to my stomach. And I thought, oh, how sad. Email should be super fun because we're interacting with people who we love and care about. And That's the ideal, okay? All right, and let's see. Kristen says, in the past, I always had the mindset I would check email once a week and that would be enough. The problem being that at that point, the volume would be so overwhelming. Oh, absolutely, I agree. Now I have to remember how much more motivated I am to keep up on my email when I check it daily or more frequently. Keep it small and it's much easier to face, just like with our next actions list. Thank you so much for saying that, Kristen. And same thing, like Eric's been taking a ton of pictures on his phone, and he was having a hard time getting his phone photos to upload in order, some glitch within iPhoto. And he was really sad because he wanted them all in order. And so he didn't upload them for a long time. Well, it ended up he had 17,000 pictures that needed to be uploaded. And that's overwhelming. I'm like, Eric, I'm so afraid I'm going to delete your photos. So we were able to get like 8,000 off, I think, but it was a big project. It took a lot of time. So I think whatever it is you're processing, whether it's photos, whether it's emails, whether it's things on your next actions list, if you can get things, just keep up with it. Now, I don't say keep up with it all day though, because sometimes I have had a tendency in the past to check email like every 15 minutes because there'd be at least 3 or 4. That takes over your life. And so what I started doing was checking like every few hours, or I'd even take like all Sunday off, or I would say, I'm just not checking email today until 1 o'clock. And then I could always process them within about 15 minutes, where if I did it all during the day, I was context switching all day long. So I think that that's helpful. And Danielle's saying, everything is so quick now. I get emails from my kids' teachers for the next day. Yeah, and I think sometimes people kind of abuse that. They just assume you're always on your email. So, I mean, it's a benefit because you're not having to send home flyers and things like that, but people do kind of expect you to be on it. So, you know, we do the best we can, right? All right, another question is about digital or paper, asking as they're going through the STEP program, this person's trying to go digital, is it better to have some of these worksheets on Word documents so I can fill them out on the computer and type it, or just beneficial to have it in front of me on paper? And I think that's really just a personal question or personal for you. But what I would recommend is even if you print out a worksheet and fill it out, I would photograph it and put it into Evernote and then recycle. Because while I do think really well, I mean, Eric, seriously, he makes fun of me all the time. And he actually said, please apologize to everyone that I made fun of you on the last Q&A. It's like, I was really hard on you. I didn't mean to be so hard on you. Okay, he also makes fun of me because I have these little wire-bound notebooks that I carry everywhere we go. Like, we'll go in the car somewhere, we went on vacation, I take it to church, I take these little wire-bound things, and I have just tons and tons of like notes and ideas, and I love it. But what I do, because I just work better with a pen in my hand, and I think they actually have done studies showing that people do think really well when they're actually writing. But I found that if I can take all my notes there, I extract the action items, and I photograph it to keep a record, and then I just toss it. So I really don't keep any paper, but I love using paper just to get my ideas out. Okay, and Lisa too, yay. All right, so yeah, if it works for you to have it on paper and you love it, do it. If not, then you know, the digital item works best. But either way, I would definitely make it digital. Okay, next question on focusing. They said, I don't want to be searching for other ideas. Just want to find my confidence. Just build the system myself from what you've already outlined. So I guess this is asking about needing help, just focusing on organization. And do I build the STEP system or do I keep looking for new ideas? And what I would say is that we want to spend our lives being open to new ideas because there's always great things being suggested. I love learning new things, and I'm sure that I will continue to become more effective and more organized throughout my life as I continue to learn from other people. But what I would say is just take like 2 weeks or 1 month, just kind of commit to yourself, hey, I'm going to try this for a certain period of time. And then once you have your system up and running, then keep learning, and you might want to tweak it or change some things, which is great. So that's fine, but I think you just don't want to confuse yourself. It's kind of like when you're learning how to eat a new way, or you're learning really anything, like how to play the piano. Like, let's learn one method, let's get it down pat, and then you'll know if it's working for you because you won't feel stress on your shoulders, okay? And then if that's what I love, is that when it's no longer a pain point, like papers are no longer a pain point. Honestly, I have 4 papers in my inbox, and that's the only pile of papers in my house right now. So papers aren't a pain point. So I'm not out looking for ways to solve a paper problem because I don't have one anymore. But if I were to come across something that had a better idea for how to organize papers, so I would make my stress even less, which I don't know how that's possible because I just don't have stress about it, then I'd be happy to learn more. But you don't want to have that stop you from still going, okay? All right, let's see. Okay, Colleen was saying I do that as well, taking notes on the paper, need to move it to where it needs to go. Yeah, try it. It works really well within, like if you have a current project, support materials within your Evernote, I put those right there inside. And I love Evernote because it searches my handwriting and I can find it really quickly. I also usually do label it, something that's easy to find. Okay. All right, next question is kids, crafts, papers, and junk. I want to keep some of these things, but I'm not sure. Okay, I actually have a video that I'm going to post where I just talk about what we do with our kids' stuff, but essentially we save just a few things. Each child gets a banker box for every 5 years of their lives. That's how we do it. Some people also just love having a binder for some of the more special things, which I think is a great idea. We don't at this point, so it's all just kind of there. I do have a file folder for each child, but they don't really have access to it right now. But what would be helpful is that you just say, this is how much we're going to keep paper-wise, one box for every 5 years, and then everything else you're going to photograph. So I have, or throw away. So I have that sneaky sorter. I don't know if I've talked about it here in STEP, but I have a sneaky sorter in my laundry room. So everything on the left is stuff that I'm planning to keep to put in their boxes or take a picture. And everything on the right, I think I can throw away, but I don't want to throw it away yet because they might ask about it, which happens about 5 times a year. They ask about something. So every day when they come home from school, I'm trashing all the trash. Anything I think I might need to save, I either decide I'm going to throw it away in a month or I'm going to keep it forever. And then when it's time to take the forever box that's full, we take pictures of most of it, only pick a few select items to put in their banker boxes. And then that works. So every child in their bedroom has a box. And then we have extra ones up in the attic. So like Aaliyah's 16, so she has 3 boxes up in the attic and 1 in her room. That makes sense. So that's been helpful. Okay, and what do you do when you have a large event or project coming up that requires you to complete more than 7 or 8 projects in a month, like moving, a wedding, baby birth, life events, and changes? Okay, yes, so I do way more than 7 to 8 projects in a month. I'm probably doing 10 projects a week because they're not huge, but they're like, you know, and I'm thinking if it was a wedding, those are sub-projects, you probably have like 50 sub-projects with that. But I'm doing at least 10 good-sized projects every week. So I don't have 40 projects on my current projects list because that would make me sick and I wouldn't get out of bed. So what I have is I use Kanban right now. So my next in line Kanban list has a whole bunch of ideas in it. And then I have a really focused list of like what I'm actually doing like today, this week, and everything's at the top of the next in line list I can just bring over. So like today I have probably 4 projects that I'm kind of working on that I'm thinking about today. They're not like huge and overwhelming, but that's on my today list. So I would just say use something either like Kanban or Evernote, or you could do, you know, people divide up their wall and they have Post-its and they're kind of moving things across just like Kanban would be. You can do that either way, but I think that that's really helpful just to have some way to put them in line and decide on the first 7 or 8. Because whether you're planning a wedding or moving or having a baby or any of that, you're going to do something first. So decide now what you're going to do first and you decrease your stress. If you say, I'll just put it all on my list and I'll decide later, you increase your stress. So it just makes sense to decide soon. Okay, back to papers for a second. Kristen says, I've given each kid a folder to put their papers in. Rarely are they ready to give up their papers right away, so even to go into scrapbook. So they put their papers into those folders. We do a weekly review with them and filter what papers actually go into the scrapbook because they're young and want to save everything. That way I'm not going crazy with kids' papers and I lose them. They can lose all of the rooms in the house. Love that idea. And I love that you're involving a weekly review for your kids. So they get to save things and they get to decide. That's beautiful. Good job. All right, next question says, lately I've been very preoccupied with ideas that aren't related to a task or project. For example, I've been watching the Work by Design Summit and getting ideas about what living with purpose means to different people. Where do these ideas fit into my system so I can get them off my brain and be present? Okay, so I think Danielle referenced it up there that we have a conference notes podcast on Learn, Do, Become. I think it's episode 7. And so we have a little printout showing how you can take notes or how you can make an executive summary of all your notes. I go to a lot of conferences and I love it. And so what I do, honestly, I take this with me to the conference. I scribble, I write, I make notes, and I just think and brainstorm on this. Then at the end, I extract the best ideas, put them onto one paper, And I actually go into Evernote and I photograph all of it. I start with my executive summary and I photograph every page of my notes. And so if I think, oh, I just went to this great, I had like Dave Ramsey's Smart Conference. What is the Smart Conference? Let me go check it out. I have my executive summary and then I have all of my notes just photographed. So if I wanted everything, it's there, but I only need to review the ones that are really specific. And when I pulled out my action items, I actually put that into my inbox. So then that folds into my program. So some of them are or into my system. Some of them are someday. Some of them are like, oh, Eric and I are going to talk about this next Friday, so it goes on our agenda items. Or, oh, this is something I want to do right away. I'm actually going to work on it next Tuesday. Or I'll put this in Evernote on my marketing ideas, right? So you just need to know where to put it so it's going to come to you. And that's what I love about the STEP system, is that you can get as many ideas as you want and you just shuttle them to where you need them to go when they'll come back to you. So all you're focusing on is your calendar, your next actions list, and just keeping up with the system, doing your weekly review. And it's like heaven, okay? So, all right, Kristen's saying, what about great ideas that aren't really actions? Okay, so one of the parts we have of the STEP program is goal review, where you can put down just ideas or things that you want to think about or remember. I would pull out the best ones because you don't want to review like 500 things all the time, but I would pick out the very best ones that are determining who you want to become and what you want to be, and then review those every week. That's on your weekly review sheet, right? To review these goals. And so collect them all. I have a note in Evernote called my daily reminders, where I write down the most powerful ideas that help me remember who I am, what my purpose is, and like the help that I have to get there. And I review that every morning. So I'm just reminding myself that. But then I also have a whole cubby actually, and I'll show you my little thing right here. This is my folder where it's kind of my goal review folder, where I have, you know, on my birthday in 2013, I wrote down a bunch of ideas. I just random goal sheets that I just kind of put together over the years. I think it's fun to keep them all and just look through it. So I just have this as part of my weekly review. I can just look through that, and I have things like, if I were to feel thrilled about my life, what would it look like? And I identify it and write it down, and I'm just thinking about it. But anything that's task oriented, like these are routines I need in place, I add to my routines list. This is a project I need to do to get there. It goes on to current projects or someday or something like that. Okay, and let's see. Samantha's asking, where are my daily reminders? I have that in Evernote, and I have it's just called Daily Reminders. And so I even have an audio in there I listen to, and that's been working really well. Zach says, for those interested in going more digital, there are some good handwriting apps you can use for handwritten notes, like Penultimate by Evernote for handwritten notes, like a notebook, and Paper 53 for more drawing style ones. A good stylus also helps. Yay, great idea, Zach. Thank you. Okay, my weekly review reminders. Well, and this is where I would, if you're putting together all your weekly stuff for your review in Evernote, and that's what I'm making right now, are kind of those folders. You can check it out and see. I would just have goal review in Evernote, and I would take pictures. Because I'm still shifting from paper to digital, that's why I have a folder to keep my cubbies. So I have all my cubbies right here next to me on my desk, and I have one cubby in the top left. That's my personal development. So that's where I have, you know, goals. I have my journals. I have, you know, like all these like ideas and things that I'm excited about. And they don't stress me out. They're just there in case I want to think about them. But, you know, I'm one of those people where I love thinking about my goals. I love setting goals. And so it's nice to have them all there. And Danielle says, I keep great thoughts in my planner, things I want to look over each week with my regular weekly review. If it's super powerful, it makes my routines and responsibilities because it's a habit. Ooh, I love that idea. Putting it in there is awesome. Okay, I have another question. Can you share what type of paper personal planner you use? Yes. So I use, this is my paper planner, my Franklin planner. And so what I do is like right here, these are things that have to be done that day. They're calendar specific. And I have my next actions list, which is Franklin Covey. This is the progressive task list. Now, one of the things that I realized is that my work responsibilities, because Learn to Become is growing so quickly, my work responsibilities have quickly gotten kind of out of control because all the stuff just kind of came onto my list. So I realized that my paper planner is now going to be the place where I handle more of my personal things, errands, activities with my kids, things I'm doing at home. And then my computer is where I have like an Excel spreadsheet with our editorial calendar, you know, basic executive materials, and anything I do during work. So for me, it's really helping to kind of separate personal and work so that I don't feel so overwhelmed. Because I found when I was putting all my personal stuff within the same work system, because there was so much work, like 99% work and a little bit of personal, it was getting lost. So right now my paper planner is like, once I close up my computer, and I don't like to have my computer open when my kids are home, so I just work from my paper planner. So that's been working for me right now. Okay, and then Samantha, I actually want to bring you on in like a minute because I think we're done with our questions. We might have a couple more questions. Someone had said, what systems didn't work for you? First attempts at GTD. GTD worked for me the second I started. What didn't work for me was doing my Franklin Planner ABC 1, 2, 3. I did that for about 20 years and it didn't work. I got stuff done, but I was stressed. So GTD has worked beautifully for me for 8 years. And then another final question was talking about give examples of unplanned incidents that interrupt your life. Like, what if you have plans and then you get a notice the bill didn't get paid, or something comes on TV for 2 hours and it can't be recorded, or you have to garden or clean the house? How do you deal with the things that come into your life that you didn't plan for? Great question. Okay, I love you guys think about that and give me your feedback, and I'll go through these questions here, and then we'll come back to that one. So Samantha says, do you have a checklist of all the things you're supposed to review? Like, look at your daily review, look at your routines list. Yes. So the routines list is the checklist. So like daily, here's what I need to do daily. And if I remember to do my daily review on my Evernote, because I heard once that like 95% of people who have a smartphone check it within like 5 minutes of waking up. And that bothered me because I'm like, I don't want to start my day with other people's priorities. So the first thing I look at on my phone are my daily reminders. So that's just a habit. But if it weren't a habit, I would just add it here to my routines list, which I review every week during my weekly review. And so, yeah, put it on your routines list if you're having trouble doing it. And if you find you're not doing it, then I would add it as a calendar trigger until it becomes a habit. I mean, the whole goal here is to shift our habits. I really want you to get to the point that you don't even need most of the system because your habits are just so ingrained, you're not even thinking about it. That's kind of the goal. Okay, and then Joan says, I use a binder for everything. I have a daily, a weekly, and a monthly tab, as well as one for current and future projects. Lovely, awesome. And I use paper and binders for years. I have on my bottom shelf over here like 2 big Franklin planners. I've done different colors, different styles. I love it. So if you're more of a paper person, more power to you. Love it. Just found that when I was sitting more at a desk and that type of thing, it worked fine to go onto to the computer. It was so cute. Okay, Kristen says, with a PDF of the steps to go through during your weekly review in the step program. Yes, absolutely. Okay, let's see. Okay, Samantha, I would love to have you come on right now. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. You may need to have headphones. I don't know if you have a headphone there, but I'm going to try to unmute you and let's see if we can get this going. I can see your name pop up. Okay. So I promoted you to presenter, and there should be like a microphone tab or microphone that comes up. Can you?
It says my line is now unmuted.
Yay, we can hear you. Okay. So Samantha, you've been awesome, totally enthusiastic in our step group. And do you have headphones? Can you stick headphones in?
I can hear you.
Oh, you can? Okay, I'm hearing a little echo. Is anyone else hearing echo? Or maybe not anymore. Okay. Okay, so you had a question that you'd posted in the STEP Facebook group about next actions in Evernote. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so was I think the way I remember your question is that you had for next actions like a notebook, and then you were making each task its own note. Is that right?
Well, that's what I was wondering. Like, what I actually showed you was my old way of how I have all my different tasks, and I've got a million different things I need to do, and I'm trying to figure out where they need to go in my system so that I can actually do them.
Okay, so the kind of tasks that you're talking about, they're not projects, they're all boiled down specific next actions?
Right, yeah.
And do you have a small number of them, or do you have a huge number of them?
There's a lot of them. There's probably like 50.
Okay, that's a lot of next actions. So could all of them feasibly be done within a week?
No.
Okay.
No, some of them, like one of them would be like to go and go to a bank and meet the lender there and introduce myself. so that I can make a connection with them. It's a specific
Right.
place that I want to reach out to.
Okay, so that's an errand.
That's an errand.
Yeah, right. Like to go to the bank. Do you have to make an appointment or can you just go?
I know I'd have to just go. I probably would be
Okay.
smarter to actually make an appointment, but I was just gonna go.
Okay.
It's not.
So if you're just going to drop in to see if the person's there, then you would put that on your errands section. Now, are you trying to go totally digital?
Yes.
Okay. So if you are using Evernote, and this is where you might want to try Kanban, that might work well for you. You could do a Kanban board where it has all of the, home, computer, to discuss, errands, all that, like across. That's one way that might work for you. Evernote's fine, it's great. Eric just does one next actions note and then he just lists them all. But the thing is, with any digital app you're going to use with your next actions, you want your next actions list to be as short as you possibly can. So if you can pull out the next actions that you actually want to do this week, like I'm going to drop by the bank, or I have this phone call to make and make this appointment, whatever you're going to do, and you have a super short list, like those contexts. I mean, because honestly, I'm talking like as small as you can, like a really specific list. Then those other maybe 30 next actions that don't fit in this week, I would have them on like a next in line next actions list. Like the way that I did it at first when I had tons is I would have like, here's my immediate next actions. Here's what I'm doing this week. And then here's extra phone calls, extra errands, extra every idea there that could kind of feed into it during my weekly review. Because with the way that David Allen teaches is he just says, have one phone list and put all the phone calls that you need to make on it. That didn't work for me because I ended up with 30 different phone calls. And then I would look at the list and I couldn't prioritize in my brain quick enough to figure out which ones were most important. So I did none of them. So if it works for you to have 50 things on your next actions list, that's fine. But if it's paralyzing you, so you're not moving forward and you can't decide which one to do, then I would extract like maybe top 2 or 3 of each category, phone calls, things like that, and then put everything else like in a waiting list that you'll review during your weekly review to kind of refill the Pez dispenser, that kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it. I love the next in line, next actions list. And then as
Mm-hmm.
for like Evernote, I was just wondering if we should make each to do or each next action, or even if it's an action inside the next in line, if it should be a note by itself, or do we just have one
Mm-hmm.
note that's labeled next in line and then we just start making a list of all of the things on that one note? Or do we create a note for each one and put it in like its own notebook?
Yeah. So yeah, I think you could try both ways and see which one works for you. Ultimately, you want to do the one that's you're going to be excited about using. Because like I used the To Do app for a while and I just never went into it because I tried putting all my routines into it and all my projects and all my next actions because it's set up for that. And I honestly would not open the app because it made me feel overwhelmed. So I'm like, forget it. Anything that makes you feel overwhelmed, you're not going to use. So if it works for you to have a notebook stack called Next Actions, and then a notebook for phone, a notebook for, is that how you're doing it? Notebook for computer, things like that?
I don't know yet.
Is I would probably do that if you're having a notebook stack for all of them, notebooks for each of those 5 categories. Then you can have a note for each item if you have like a lot of descriptive information, if you're adding photos, if you're adding in documents. And that's very much how Kanban flow works, is that you end up with, a specific rectangle for each task. And then you can add in details, you can upload files if you want, you can make subtasks, like you can make it really like detailed.
Yeah.
So it's up to you how your brain works, but I would just, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying, yeah, I like that idea. And then you could take, when you do your weekly review, you can review the next in line, add your notes to each of the tasks to decide which one you want to do, which one's most important. Maybe you can add a few notes in some of them, and then you can move those ones to your immediate actions list.
Yes.
So that you have a few to look at and you actually get something done for one.
You're talking my language. You're doing such a good job.
I can see it. It's coming together slowly but surely. It will come together.
Okay, you guys are awesome. And Kristen says if you have Apple devices, you could try out OmniFocus, a bit expensive but very powerful tools for next action. I think that's what David Allen uses as well. I'm not 100% sure, but I know his company talks about OmniFocus a lot. So there are a lot of tools out there. GTD is very common language in the productivity world. So you go out there and there's GTDers is what they're called. They're super excited about GTD. Lots of people have ideas how they organize it. I think, it can change throughout your life where you put them, but I think the point is you want to know during the day when my calendar items are done, like I'm done with this meeting, I'm done with that meeting, I've got 2 hours or I've got 20 minutes or I've got this much time to work. You want to know exactly where to go to find that. So when you're out on errands, you're like, laser focus, here's my errands list. I'm going to get them all done. Oh, computer time, laser focus. They're already in order. Because that way you're building this momentum all day. Okay?
And those areas those are the context. That's why I'm a little bit confused. The context are the areas where it's at. All right.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Samantha.
Oh my God, thank you so much. You're awesome.
We love you. You guys are so great. Okay, and yeah, Kristen was saying Google GTD apps. That's a great idea. Sarah saying in Kanban with context on top, would you upgrade and use swim lanes to separate next actions and next in line? So there's a couple ways you can do it. I've upgraded to Kanban, but I don't really see a huge value in it. I thought Eric was going to want to do it with me, but he doesn't love it. And so the only thing I do like about having upgraded is it integrates with my Google Calendar if I want to calendar these things. And it allows me to upload documents, but I'm not really using those features. And the swim lanes I've tried, but I think you can get away without it. And so the way I would recommend it is that I would say, if you have your 5 columns for errands, home, all of that, I would have a 6th column, maybe on the left, called, next in line. And you can color code them, which it is kind of an extra step and that might bother you, but I love colors. And that was one of the reasons I did a lot with markers. You could color code the next in line according to, yellow is phone, purple is computer, whatever. And you could color code them in the columns so that you can see like, oh, I've got next in line, I've got tons of phone calls, or I have a little bit of computer work, or I've got some to discuss items down here, and you can move those over as needed. So it depends on how many you have. If you're like doing this all day long, it's going to be a waste of time to be changing the colors. So you might want to just get a swim lanes. So to you, it's just all about like how much time it's taking you, I think. So, okay, Sarah's saying I already have color coding. You want to be able to see different contexts more clearly. Yeah, good luck. Okay, great idea. And yay, Samantha, I'm glad that you like the Evernote example. I'll get more of that together. And one of the things that I've just learned, I'll just kind of close up with this and then we'll go to that final question about unexpected things. Well, actually, this relates to it. The question that had come in is about how do you do when things interrupt your next actions list, when things happen that you weren't expecting? And that's actually what I've been going through a lot lately. I mean, just in the past week, our business credit card was hacked, so we had to shut down all of our accounts. Someone had been charging like $1,000 to hotels all around the country. We had to shut down every single thing we have on recurring billing and redo it. So we're like calling all these different companies, trying to settle accounts, filling out forms. I mean, ridiculous. And my hard drive had to be completely wiped and start over. So I've had to completely reinstall everything. And then our website kept just shutting down. The server would crash. So we had to switch to a new server. So like all the beautiful plans that I had for this week completely got wiped out because I honestly didn't have a computer working or a server that was functioning. So that was really stressful. And then the other thing that happened is that as I've been preparing the Evernote class and are organizing digital files, and I have all the stuff that I've already outlined on paper, it's already in Evernote, it's like ready to go. And I needed recording time with Eric, and he had a bunch of other things come up. So anytime we had recording time or anytime we had time together, I'm like, so you want to record an audio? And he's like, I'm tired. I've been doing stuff all day. And then I was feeling like resentful and frustrated because we didn't have enough recording time together. And it was stressing me out and overwhelming me. So what I did and what I would encourage you to do, and I would love to hear any other suggestions before we close up, is I had to sit there and I had to renegotiate with myself, right? And I love this term from David Allen. It's where you acknowledge that things happen, things that come up, and then you need to step back and say, okay, how are we going to move forward in a way that really works, given what's happened? Because we're not going to beat ourselves up. We're not going to have a tantrum. We're not going to give up. We're just going to step back and say, okay, I'm going to move this project here. I'm going to delegate this one. I'm going to wait on this one. I'm going to talk to the person who I said I would do this for and just say, hey, could it work if we did this differently? Because here's where I am. I mean, it's so easy to renegotiate obviously we want to have integrity with ourselves and do what we say we're going to do, which that's really important to me. but you can't always know what's going to happen. And so when things come up, you obviously want to have those decision filters in place, and we'll talk more about that in the decision-making matrix, but you want to have decision filters deciding what's going to allow you to get off and which ones aren't. What are you just going to have to say no to and ignore? But when some of the big things happen, like an illness, or maybe a stress in your marriage, or maybe you're going through depression, or, you know, there's a lot of stuff that can happen that's not your fault. It's just happening. You want to be able to look at your system and renegotiate, reaccommodate, and then keep moving. And that's worked for me for 8 years. So even though I've had surgeries and kids with stomach flus and all kinds of things go wrong, it doesn't stop me from living my mission because I know how to renegotiate and get it set. Okay, we have a couple great things coming in here. And you guys are so cute. Thank you for all of your kind words. Lisa's asking Mac or PC. It was my Mac that was having problems. And so now it's great. It's working beautifully. And then Danielle saying, one of my favorite phrases, I use it more than I ever think I would. Is that tell me the phrase again, because I didn't see it when it came in. Kristen saying, one idea I really liked from a podcast I heard is the concept of making sure your system matches your reality. Ooh, love that. So when emergencies come up, you do a mini review of your system to update it, move projects that are no longer going to work to get done into someday or next in line, and add in tasks to handle the things that have come up. Make your system match your reality so you stay motivated to use it. Thank you so much for saying that. That's true wisdom right there. Love it. Danielle is saying, Kristen says, when the system is up, we can renegotiate because we know what tasks need to happen now versus what can wait. Yeah. And, you know, and that's something that I feel like I'm finally getting better at, because I'm a doer. And I'm actually working with a business coach right now. She's wonderful. And she's like, April, I think you're kind of addicted to the doing because you're so good at getting things done. You kind of think like you just have to keep doing and doing and doing. And while I think my brain does like love the dopamine, like checking things off and getting things done, I acknowledge that. And I'm doing good things. I'm not just like sitting around. I mean, I'm helping people and I'm making things and I'm, you know, enjoying my time. But I think that I need to learn how to step back more and be a little more gentle with myself and not just require me to be like a machine. And I did an interview with Greg McEwen, and he talked about when we say, oh, I need to be like a machine, or, oh, that person's a machine, that language didn't even exist prior to the Industrial Revolution. And it's not natural for us to expect ourselves to be like a machine. We need downtime. I need time with friends. I need time with my husband. I need time to like be a person, maybe play the piano, go rollerblading, play with my dog. Like, I need time to be a person too. I can't just be like an email processing machine or a task machine. Although sometimes you feel like those things give you more power. I talked to one woman one time and she said, I'm not a good mom, but I'm a great business owner. So I just do the business. And I'm like, I don't like that. I won't do that, because if I'm not a great mom or I'm not a great wife, I want to become that. Like, that's really important to me. Business stuff at the end of the day, it's important, but it's not as essential as our relationships. So, okay, let me see the final thoughts here. Samantha saying, yes, sometimes I think I'm going and I think I'm doing great, and then I just do not want to get out of bed. Totally get it. So happy to have my confidence. I can get it together. Yes, absolutely. And there is a way to get the chat printed. We'll actually have this posted with the video. So Danielle's amazing. And we'll talk more about how we do the process. Actually might be interesting for people, but she extracts the video and extracts the audio and extracts the chat and puts together timestamps and posts it all. And we get the new call ready, and it's exciting. It's great. So, yeah. Okay. So let's see. And Colleen's like, I've been copying and pasting the things I want to remember or look into later. Love that idea too. Okay. Let's see. You guys are so good. Samantha, thank you. She says, machines need to take a break or they overheat. Love that. And Lisa's saying it's always about choosing perspective on the expected and unexpected. Oh, thank you so much for saying that. Focus on control versus what you can't control. Removing fear. Love that. Okay, you guys are great. I'm gonna go pick up my daughter from school, and I told my kids I'm gonna get a nap after school, and then we're gonna have the whole Friday night to enjoy together, which is fun, right? We want to enjoy time. And so have a great day. Have a wonderful weekend. You guys are wonderful, and I'm hopeful that here in our STEP community, we can build this culture where we are hard workers, we are smart workers, we're moving forward on our goals at a great pace that's doable. but we also give ourselves permission to be human, and we work together to support that. I mean, that's the kind of community that I want to be a part of, and I just appreciate you guys are fantastic. So, okay, goodbye everybody. We'll talk to you soon, and the call is monthly, so we'll put the next month's call in. Also, I'm thinking of doing some more Facebook Live stuff because that's kind of fun. We can just chat on Facebook and do some informal Q&As. But I'm trying not to get ahead of myself because, got to get my routines under my belt so that I can add a few more at a time. So, okay, take care, guys, and we will talk to you soon.